For the next 60 minutes, this station will conduct a test. This is only a test. It's not the real thing, it's simply a test. If it were the real thing, we certainly wouldn't be wasting time beating around the bush saying that it was only a test. At least give us that much credit. We're not dummies, you know. Television is a highly evolved art form. It requires all kinds of electronic stuff to work right and not break down or anything, or maybe start a fire or something.
Man is the measure of all things. 410 BCE.
Philosophy. The inquiry into the most comprehensive principles of reality in general.
The influence of this ancient knowledge on the Western world has been greater than that conceivable to the human mind. Since the 6th century BCE, people have tried to describe the nature of the universe and life.
The philosophers of the ancient world weren't really dictators to fancy poetical phrases. These people were the first in Greek civilization and all civilizations to preach that things had causes, not just that they were decided to be done by the gods.
The ancient philosophers thought that everything was based on one thing. Thales of Miletus was the first of these. He believed that everything was based on water. He's credited with the introduction of the mathematical and astronomical studies into Greece. He did many things for the ancient world. Thales predicted an eclipse for May 28, 585 BCE, and got rich with oil prices, using philosophy to do these things was the beginning of all knowledge.
Anaximenes was Thales' successor. He believed that air was the basis of all things. The different forms of air produce all things in nature. His pupil, Anaximander, believed that the boundless, a formless, immortal substance made up the universe. It was made up of earth, air, fire, and water. He believed that in different proportions, all things were made.
Heraclitus was quoted as saying, "Everything flows and nothing stays the same." Fire was the basis of his teachings. He thought that all life went through a continual process of decay and regeneration. Democritus was the philosopher that came closest to the modern atomic theories. He taught that the universe is made up of indivisible and invisible particles, and that they continuously combine to form matter.
Pythagoras thought of the universe in numbers. He taught that everything in the universe circled around a central fire. One of his more important theories is the relationship between music and mathematics. He believed that numbers are the true expression of reality.
Hippocrates founded a school of medicine on the island of Kos. He rejected the belief that disease was caused by demons. He looked for the natural source of ailments. He introduced words such as crisis, acute, and chronic into the medicinal language. His healing methods consisted of hygiene and diet instead of older, more painful remedies. He devised the Hippocratic method, the basis of all medicine today.
Today we will be looking at all philosophy. It developed and created why people think today. The main three important philosophers of the 4th century that we all know are Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, in that order.
Socrates was one of the most admired figures in the ancient world. He was born in 469 BCE and died in 399 BCE. Socrates believed that all people are inherently good. He is quoted as saying, "Nature leads people to act correctly and in agreement with knowledge, as well as no man knowingly does evil." He is famous for his standpoint on knowledge. He knew that he didn't know everything, and people had a hard time accepting that he was so confident. Socrates wrote nothing on his own, but his teachings were passed on by his prized student, Plato. Plato tells us that he cared about ethics, as well as theories and forms. His theory identified the quality in an object or the idea that remains constant or unchangeable. The Socratic method is the idea of universal definitions. He believed that although individual people or things may vary in shape or size, their definitions and morals stay the same. He believed that the correct way of analyzing people was to ask questions and then tell them how inadequate their answers were. Socrates was born to live in Athens. He lived simply in dress and customs. He was married to Xanthippe, who was ill-tempered and difficult to live with. They had 2 children. Socrates' speeches were held in places such as streets, marketplaces, and gymnasiums. His teachings were made by questioning his listeners and showing them the faults in their answers. He had many followers, and many people distrusted him because of his views on humanity. Later in life, he was brought on trial for corrupting the youth and for disrespecting the religious tradition. Rebuttal. Clear knowledge of the truth is essentials of the correct conduct of life. He appeared dangerous to the Athenian democracy, but his preachings were the foundation of that democracy. After his trial, the jury found Socrates guilty with the penalty of death. He was offered escape from prison, but it denied the opportunity. He was put to death by calmly drinking a cup of hemlock poison.
Plato!
Plato was Socrates' admired student. He was born in 427 BCE and was one of the most important thinkers of Western culture. He was born in Athens and was related to a lawmaker. Sadly, his father died when he was young, and his mother married his uncle, and Plato grew up in this house of incest.
Plato was actually a nickname, meaning broad shoulders. His actual name was Aristocles. When he was young, his dream was to be a politician, but later changed his mind when he witnessed the cruel and torturous practices of the lawmen. When Socrates was put to death, all of Plato's hopes of becoming a lawmaker were shattered. In 399 BCE, he became deeply saddened and left Athens to travel for several years. In 387, he returned to Athens and founded an Academy of Philosophy and Science.
This academy was the first university. His most respected pupil was Aristotle. Plato taught in Athens for the rest of his natural life.
Plato wrote vast amounts of scientific and philosophical literature for many dramatic dialogues. Some of the more famous dialogues include the Apology, the Republic, and the Laws.
His philosophy refers to nature and the importance of defining it. He was interested in the application of one word to many objects. For example, the word table could be used for an object, table, or for a table you write information in.
Like Socrates, he called this a form. He believed that a thing depends upon the form which it participates, such as a triangle is a triangle because it participates in the form of triangularity. Plato concluded that these perfect forms cannot be part of the everyday world, which is changing and imperfect.
Plato also believed that though the body dies and disintegrates, the soul lives on forever and migrates to the place called the realm of the pure forms. After time is reincarnated into the world. Plato concluded that learning consists of recalling what the soul experienced in the realm of the pure forms. He himself entered that realm 347 BC, but his soul lives on forever.
Aristotle has been named, next to Plato, as the most influential philosopher in Western thought. His different influences range from being the originator of literary criticism to being the founder of biology. He was born in Stagira in 384 BCE. His father was a physician and was very close to the Macedonian court, which was an important rulership in one of the more larger Greek city-states. Because of his father's influence, Aristotle was very trusted by the government and known to be a Macedonian. Aristotle's father also invented a strong interest in anatomy and the structure of living things. This helped him develop an extreme talent in observation. At an early age, he went to Plato's academy to learn the philosophical teachings that he loved. The people he worked with there taught him in many topics, ranging from mathematics and astronomy to medicine and biology. The thought Aristotle learned there wasn't one of specific doctrine, but based upon the knowledge of the preachers there. This way of teaching characterized Aristotle's own works. At the academy, he was also taught of political knowledge and trained in an orator's point of view. He became so knowledgeable in this field that after Plato's death in 347 BCE, Aristotle joined the court of Hermias and later went to the court of Philip II, where he became a tutor of Alexander the Great. After Aristotle tired of his political journeys, he came back to Athens to found his very own school of thought. He especially pointed at the study of nature. In 323, Alexander the Great died and a very large anti-Macedonia feeling arose in Athens, so Aristotle retired. The next year he died. Aristotle loved to talk about nature. A great deal of his works are dedicated to the natural sciences. This science revolves around how natural objects are subject to change. Change is therefore the basis of all which physics has to deal with. Because of this, Aristotle's work in physics is dedicated to the analysis of change. According to Aristotle, every change involves three factors. 1. A feature or form that exists is a result of change. 2. The earlier absence of this form. And 3. The matter that was always there but which, as a result of change, is now characterized by the form in question. Commonly, his works were based upon logic he had deducted through experiences and other literal means. Like every other ponderer, Aristotle used examples as building a house, or the letters of an alphabet, or the statue on the wall. Aristotle wasn't a total religion defiant, though. He always would argue that there is one final force that is the reason everything is in motion: God. He believed his soul was the reason for which an object's actions could be accounted upon. His version of a soul isn't quite what we believe, though. A soul was a set of defiant features, vegetative, sensitive for animals, or rational for human beings.